Holy production values, Batman. I got a new camera. Hi everybody, Olive here. Today I am here to talk to you about my third pick for Nonfiction November. This book was from the science category, and the book that I chose was Genome, an autobiography of a species in 23 chapters by Matt Ridley. As the title of this book suggests, this book talks about the human genome. It talks about how it has been mapped, and what makes this book very interesting is that it breaks down the human genome chromosome by chromosome and talks about a specific gene on that chapter's chromosome. Since each chapter is dedicated to a specific chromosome, Ridley takes a gene from that chromosome and tells you something that has been newly discovered about that gene, or tells you about how that gene functions or what happens if that gene is not functioning correctly, and gives you a really broad idea of just how much is controlled by our genes. I do have to say right off the bat that this book is outdated. It was published in 1999. It is now 2015. In the chapter where he's talking about Huntington's disease, he says that his information from this book has just been discovered within the past 5 years. And by the past 5 years, he's talking about the 90s. It makes you wonder just how much has been discovered about human chromosomes, human genes, since this has been written. This book was incredibly interesting, and so I do find myself eager to go and seek out other more up-to-date works about this topic. As you can probably gather, I did really enjoy this book. However, it is informative beyond informative. This book is chock full of information. You cannot miss one single line if you are hoping to keep up. Matt Ridley is a science writer. He is not a genetic scientist, which is a service and disservice to this book. It is a service in that this is more accessible to those of us, including myself, who are not geneticists. I will not lie to you, there were several points in this book where I felt lost or that I wasn't completely understanding, but it didn't affect my ability to understand the main points of each chapter. Although Ridley is not a genetic scientist, you would sometimes think he is because he is so knowledgeable about the subject matter. However, if you are a scientist, I could see you reading this and finding it rather elementary because he does not go into the really nitty-gritty, which I appreciated, but that's me. It would be impossible to provide a summary of what this book is about or what you will learn within this book because each chapter you're learning something different. However, I will give you a few examples of things that I found supremely interesting. The first thing I would like to mention is that there is a chapter within this book that suggests that grammar learning is genetic. There are a number of things that we learn as young children when we are learning our native language that can't possibly be taught to us. We just learn it, and this is common to all languages. So there is a strong belief that there is something within our genes that allows us to perceive and start using grammar correctly. The second interesting thing is the idea that humans develop certain diseases in order to be resistant to other diseases. For example, people of African origin are more susceptible to getting sickle cell anemia. However, if a person does have sickle cell anemia, they are more resistant to malaria. Thus, one is able to reach the conclusion that diseases like sickle cell anemia developed in order to protect the body from other diseases that exist within the area. Of course, this makes those individuals that acquire the disease that makes them more resistant to the other disease, it poses a great risk to their health, but it also protects them from another disease. Another really interesting chapter in this book talked about how some peoples developed an ability to digest lactose, present in dairy products, past infancy, while other people did not. Why some people are lactose intolerant and other people can digest lactose. The enzyme in a person's stomach that can digest lactose is called lactase. This is an enzyme that is produced in infancy because, of course, babies need to digest their mother's milk. However, this enzyme used to be shut off after infancy because the baby would have no more need to digest milk. However, in a lot of Western European countries, people discovered that they could have a readily available food source by eating dairy products, specifically drinking the milk of the animals that they were raising. And because they started using this as a food source, their bodies started becoming more able to digest the dairy. Thus, a lot of people who are descended from Western European countries are able to digest lactose because our bodies reacted to these external events. Our genes responded by allowing the lactase enzyme to continue to be produced. All of these interesting facts are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all the information you will learn in this book. This is definitely not a book that I would recommend blowing through in a week. It is not difficult to get through, but it is so information dense that I really felt the need to take my time with it, hence why this wrap up for this week of Nonfiction November is a little bit late. This was a more difficult one to get through, certainly not one that I could speed through. I gave this one 4 stars. It was highly interesting. I learned so much, and it honestly taught me a lot about the way my body works and made me respect the history behind our genes, made me think a lot about who my ancestors are and where they came from, and a lot of thinking was stimulated by this book, which is always a really good sign in a piece of nonfiction or books in general. I would highly recommend this if you are interested in genes or science or about the way our bodies work or about evolution. It is a fascinating book, but I urge you to keep in mind when it was written and that it's probably very, very outdated. So that was the end of week 3 of Nonfiction November, a little bit late. To wrap up Nonfiction November, for the Culture and Society category, I will be reading Nickel and Dimed by Barbara Ehrenreich. For all of you in the United States, I'm wishing you a great Thanksgiving for tomorrow. Eat lots of yummy food. And if you have any comments about Genome or about anything in general, please leave it down in the comments section below. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at @BookOlive, and the link to my Goodreads is down below if you would like to be friends. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I will see you next time.